So I've been doing quite a lot of planking for the last couple of days, and I have now used up half of the strips that we prepared last week. That means that for now I can't go any higher than you see here on the starboard side. And also you see that I have let all these strips run over the center line of the boat. So before we can continue with the planking on the port side, we need to make a cut down the center line of the hull. So we get a straight line here down the midline. So we can let the strips on the port side meet up with the strips on the starboard side like this. So that's what we're going to do next. And I also want to show you the stern of the boat, where we're getting pretty close to have to close that up. So this is the situation up here, or back here in the stern. As you can see, it's possible to walk up here now, which is really good because it speeds things up when you're planking up here now, that we don't have to use the rolling scaffolding. As you can see here on the starboard side, we are at the center line, and with the pieces we have left, we should reach a closed stern with those. That's about 10 or 11 strips that we need to put on to close the stern. And so far our calculations looks like they are correct. We're missing around 10 square meters of cedar strips in an ellipse here at the bottom of the hull. We also need to start thinking about the recess that we need to do in the hull before we put the glass on for the keel. The recess for the keel connection to the hull. I will try to explain that a bit more later on. It's a fantastic feeling now sitting up here. You can really get a sense for how big the boat really will get now, and even the bottom section of the hull is slowly closing up. You really understand now that a 50-foot boat, our last boat was 44 feet, but going, just another 6 feet, the volume increases a lot in those 6 feet when you're comparing boats like that. So you can understand why, let's say you go from a 40-foot boat to maybe a 45-foot boat, that the price increases a lot when you're buying it, because it's not really the length of the boat you're paying for, it's the volume. And the volume, it's a big difference going up 5 feet on a monohull. So of course it takes longer time to build. There will be bigger rightening momentum in the hull, so you need stronger rig and bigger winches and all of that, so everything adds up.
Oj, det går ju bra.
So the plan is to get this track lined up with the center line of the boat, and then use this plunge saw to make a cut all along the center line. The only challenge is to get this track up a little bit so that the cut is in 90 degrees, so to say, or straight down, so we don't cut them at an angle. So I'm thinking that I will put some wedges or something underneath here, and then maybe drill a few holes through the track just to keep it in place. You know, just to be sure, because I'm working pretty high up here and I don't want to drop the track and the saw and everything, so I think it's worth putting a few holes through the track. Yeah, by the way, all of these strips that I have here have support from the stem underneath, so there won't be any strips hanging in the air, so to say. But later on, once we're past frame number 19 here, there will be some strips that at the end will be between stations, so that the end will hang in the air. I don't think it will be a problem, it's just that I need to connect it firmly to the adjacent piece, just to make sure so we don't get any dips at the end of the pieces. I think it turned out really good. I'll just clean up here the surface of the stem. There's some leftover epoxy here that have been squeezed out. So I'll try to remove that or sand it a little bit, and then we can continue with the planking on the port side.
The rye on the fields around Sunhill Farm has been harvested, and the apples are soon ready to harvest as well. The farmers are working hard, both day and night now, to get everything ready before fall.
So today I'm on my way to have a look at that western red cedar at the northern part of the island of Öland. I picked up a trailer this morning, a rental, and it's around 4 to 5 hours drive up there. It's pretty small roads once you're on the island, and since I have the trailer, I have to go a bit slower. I'm hoping to buy between 1 and 2 cubic meters of this timber, if I can find enough that has that doesn't have a lot of nuts in it. I talked to the owner, and since this timber is not as old as the old growth timber that we have in the hall already, there's more nuts in this. But I'm thinking, since we can get it for a reasonable price, that we can buy enough so we can cut those nuts out and still use it for the bottom part of the hull. But I also want to use some of it for the stern, and maybe also for some deck beams later on. I can't take too much. I think the limit on the trailer is somewhere around 2 cubic meters. Probably the trailer can take more, but my driving license can't take more. Have to be careful not to load up too much. So I've just finished loading up the trailer. We got 2 cubic meters of cedar on there, so really nice. And now I'm on my way to have a look at that forest where these trees used to grow before they were taken down by that storm in, I think it was 2007. Somewhere in here there's supposed to be western red cedar growing in Sweden. The western red cedar trees are supposed to be a bit inside of the forest here and surrounded by pine trees and normal spruce. Here we have them, I think. Yes, look, this is just so cool. The forest keeper that used to work here in the late 1800s, he wanted to find a different species for some reason that was suitable for growing here in the northern part of Öland. And he decided that the western red cedar would be a good contender to be planted here. So he decided to plant these trees, and this is what you see 140 years later. So this is the type of trees that the planks that I have on the trailer right now are coming from. The same size. All of these trees were planted at the same time, and I think it was in the 1880s. And a lot of them came down in storms between 2005 and 2007. So I guess this is the size they will get in around 140 years. So still pretty big, but they can get really massive. And that's why I'm thinking that the timber that we already have used for the boat. Those planks were from Haida-Gwaii in British Columbia and old growth trees. So no knots, since those trunks of those trees were a lot bigger. As you can see here, these trunks are not that big, and that's why there's also much more knots in those planks. It's I like these trees. It's a very special type of bark. And as you know, the smell of cedar, it's really, it's a special smell. I like it. It's really, I don't know if I've mentioned this before, but Western red cedar really isn't a real cedar tree. It's a tuya. In this case, I think it's Tuya plicata or something like that in Latin, or giant tuya. I don't know. It's but it's not a real cedar tree. Feels like I'm back in Washington State or British Columbia or something.
A bit over 4 years ago, we sailed along the west coast of the United States. And in Northern California, we visited the redwood forest, where the giant redwood trees grow. And here you can find Western red cedar as well.
The mountainous region of Humboldt County has vast areas of old forest and is home to the largest trees on earth, the redwood sequoias.
So this redwood tree is 2,400 years old. Woohoo!
Pretty tight.
The tunnel is believed to have been cut sometime during the early 1930s.
We've just entered Avenue of the Giants, and literally there's like these giant trees everywhere, so we have to stop here, we have to stop here.
Kolla här Malin, bränt är överallt.
And there's even evidence that coastal redwoods existed some 65 million years ago, during the last era of the dinosaurs. Now could we just get some dinosaurs back?
Now it was really cool to see this, just to get some history around those. It's a lot of flies here. Around the timber that will go into the boat of the Swedish Western red cedar. But now it's really time to go back home. It will take me a bit longer, I guess, to drive back home, so I'm guessing I have some 5 hours in the car. And then I need to unload all of that timber and get the trailer back to the rental place later this evening. So it's almost 10 o'clock and I'm finally back home. It's been a long day, but it's great to have all this timber here now. And tomorrow I will sort it through a bit to find some nice pieces so we can complete the hull without knots. The rest of it we can use for the deck beams maybe, or some of it for the stern, or for some other projects here on the farm, because we got it for a really good price. I paid $500 per cubic meter, so $1,000 in total for all of it.
Johan has been a real trooper today, and it feels great to have all the timber we need now to finish the planking of the hull.
Thanks for watching, and especially big thanks to our patrons for supporting our production. If you would like to contribute as well, visit our Patreon page and join the crew.